The vast palace of Elendra floated in the sky above the planet's largest city, a shimmering jewel of crystal towers and silver domes. Beyond the walls, the sky burned with the colors of the nebula, stars scattered like diamonds on black velvet. Captain Cale Aaron stepped onto the observation deck, feeling the faint hum of the energy shields beneath his boots. Though he had seen many worlds, Elendra had a grandeur that words could hardly describe. Its walls told stories of centuries of rule, of victories won and sacrifices made. Cale had not expected to be called here. He had been stationed on the edge of the solar expanse, leading his human fleet in routine patrols and minor conflicts. Yet today a message had arrived, glowing with the royal seal, summoning him to the court of Princess Lyra Veylan. The message had been formal, almost cold, but beneath its words, Cale sensed urgency. Something had happened, though he did not yet know what. As he walked through the wide halls of the palace, Cale noticed the subtle differences in Elendran architecture. The walls seemed alive, glowing faintly with energy that shifted with the time of day. Patterns changed as he passed, showing constellations from distant galaxies. He wondered if the palace itself was trying to tell a story, or if it was simply a display of the kingdom's power. Finally, he reached the grand hall. The room was enormous, a cathedral of metal and crystal, with a domed ceiling that showed the swirling galaxy above. At the far end, standing on a raised platform, was Princess Lyra. She was unlike anyone Cale had ever seen. Her robes shimmered like liquid silver, her hair like dark nightfall, and her eyes glowed faintly with the soft luminescence of her world. For a moment, Cale froze. Lyra's gaze met his, and her lips parted slightly. "Cale," she whispered. Her voice trembled, and he could see tears forming in her eyes. The hall fell silent. Courtiers and advisors who had been watching with anticipation gasped. The name Cale was foreign to them, yet it seemed to strike a chord in the princess. Cale opened his mouth, but no words came. He had never met her before. He had never even heard her speak his name. And yet, the moment she said it, a strange warmth spread through him, a sense of connection he could not explain. An elder figure stepped forward from the shadows. Eldrin, the royal archivist, was small and frail, yet his eyes burned with intelligence. "Princess Lyra," he said softly, "you recognize him, but why?" Lyra's hand trembled as she reached toward Cale. It's him," she said, her voice breaking. "I saw him in my dreams, but I thought it was only a memory of someone I never knew." Cale shook his head. "Princess, I don't understand. I've never—" "Don't speak," Eldrin interrupted gently. "Listen, sometimes the past reaches out in ways we cannot predict. The child who left Elendra years ago, it seems fate has brought him home." Cale frowned. "Child?" I was sent away as a child," Eldrin nodded. "Yes, during the last interstellar war your life was in danger. The royal family made a choice to protect you. You were sent to Earth, raised among humans, so that one day you might return." Cale's mind reeled. He had always wondered why he felt different, why some things about his childhood were hazy yet familiar. Strange dreams of alien worlds, memories that did not belong to his life on Earth, they were all pieces of a puzzle he had never been able to solve. Could it be true? Was he Elendran? Lyra stepped closer, her hand still reaching toward him. "I've waited so long," she whispered. "All these years I've seen him in my visions, in my dreams. I thought he was gone forever." Her tears fell freely now, and Cale felt a pang in his chest. Her grief, her longing was almost too much to bear. "Princess," he said softly, "if what Eldrin says is true, I don't know what to say. I'm just me, a human who grew up on another world. I've never—" "You are more than that," Lyra interrupted, her voice steadying despite her tears. "You are our blood, our hope, the one who can change everything." Cale looked around the hall at the faces of courtiers who now stared with a mixture of awe and fear. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him. He had been a commander trained to lead in battle, to make decisions for the survival of his crew. But this was different. This was about a kingdom, about a people, about a destiny that had been written long before he was born. Eldrin stepped closer, placing a hand on Cale's shoulder. "You do not have to understand it all at once," he said. "But know this, the forces that threaten Elendra still exist. You were sent away to survive, to learn, to grow, and now the time has come for you to fulfill what was always meant to be." Cale swallowed hard. "And what if I fail?" Lyra's gaze softened, and she took his hand in both of hers. "Then at least we face it together. But I do not believe you will fail. I can feel it. The moment you stepped into this hall, I knew you were here." The court remained silent. sensing the bond forming between the princess and the stranger who now stood before her. It was a bond that went beyond words, beyond reason. It was the bond of fate, of blood, of something older than any of them could remember. As the minutes passed, Cale's mind raced. There were so many questions, so many doubts. Who exactly had sent him away? Why had he been hidden from the royal family? And most importantly, what did this mean for the future of Elendra? The palace doors opened suddenly, and a group of Elendran guards entered, their armor glinting in the light. "Princess Lyra," one of them said, bowing slightly, "the outer defenses have detected unusual activity in orbit. It appears a fleet is approaching. They are not Elendran." Cale felt a surge of adrenaline. "Show me!" A holographic display activated, showing a cluster of ships approaching the palace at high speed. Their design was unfamiliar, sleek, and deadly-looking. Eldrin stepped back, his expression grave. "It seems our troubles are not over," he said. "Even now there are those who would see the royal line extinguished." Cale's military training kicked in. He assessed the fleet's formation, their likely capabilities, and the possible strategies for defense. "We need to move quickly," he said. "Lyra, the palace has defenses, but I need your permission to coordinate them." Lyra nodded, wiping her tears. "Do whatever is necessary. Protect Elendra, protect our people." As Cale issued orders, he noticed a strange feeling settle in his chest. This was more than strategy or duty. This was personal. He did not fully understand the connection he had with Lyra, but he knew one thing for certain. He would fight with everything he had to protect her and her people. The Grand Hall transformed into a command center. Screens lit up with the positions of the approaching fleet. Elendran warriors moved with precision, readying weapons and activating shields. Cale found himself giving orders not just as a human commander, but as someone who now carried the bloodline of Elendra. Every decision mattered. Every movement could mean the difference between life and death. Lyra remained at his side, her presence grounding him. She was no longer just a princess. She was a partner, a confidant, someone whose visions and intuition guided him as much as his training and experience did. Together they would face whatever was coming. As the enemy fleet drew closer, Cale took a deep breath. The moment he had longed for, though he had never known it, was here. He was home. And though he did not yet know all the truths of his past, he knew one thing: he would not turn away from his destiny. The first attack could come at any moment. The palace, the princess, and the people of Elendra were counting on him. And for the first time in his life, Cale felt the weight of purpose so clearly, so completely, that fear itself seemed powerless. And somewhere deep inside, he felt a spark of something stronger than fear or duty. Hope. The sky above Elendra's palace shimmered with tension. The approaching fleet, dark and angular, moved with deadly precision through the nebula-colored space. Cale Aaron stood at the heart of the palace command chamber, his hands gripping the edge of the console. His mind raced as he analyzed the enemy ships. They were advanced, faster than anything he had seen in human space, but not without weaknesses. "Shields at 80%, reported one of the Elendran officers. "They're preparing for a direct assault." Cale nodded. "Good, keep them stable, target the lead ships." "We need to break their formation before they get close." Lyra stood beside him, her expression calm despite the fear that lingered in her eyes. "Cale, my people are counting on you. I can feel it. You were meant for this." Cale turned toward her, startled by the certainty in her voice. "I don't even know my place here yet," he said quietly. I know I can't let them take the palace, not with you here, not with your people." Lyra placed a hand on his arm. "Then fight, that is your place." "Our place?" The first wave of enemy ships struck without warning. Red beams of energy cut through the darkness, colliding with Elendra's shields. Sparks and flashes danced across the holographic display, showing where the shields held and where they weakened. Cale's heart pounded as he coordinated the palace defenses. "Fire the interceptors, lead them toward the nebula, use it for cover." His voice rang with authority, natural and confident, though his mind raced. He had commanded humans before, but now he was commanding an alien defense force. Every order had to be precise. Every delay could cost lives. The Elendran warriors moved quickly, following Cale's instructions with disciplined grace. Fighters launched from the palace's hangars, weaving through beams of enemy fire. The nebula's swirling gases hid the interceptors until they struck, forcing the enemy ships to scatter. Amid the chaos, Cale noticed one enemy ship breaking away from the formation. It was smaller, faster, more dangerous. He tracked it on the display. "That one," he said, pointing. It's trying to reach the palace core. Stop it. A squadron of Elendran pilots responded, diving into the attack with swift precision. Kale's mind calculated every possible move, predicting trajectories, speed, and likely evasions. The smaller ship zigzagged through fire, but the interceptors finally surrounded it, and with a coordinated strike, it exploded in a brilliant flare of light. Lyra exhaled, relief washing over her. "You did it," she said. Kale shook his head, still scanning the display. "It's not over. That was just the first wave. There are more." Hours passed as the fleet circled the palace, attacking and retreating, testing defenses. Kale coordinated every move, combining human tactics with Elendran technology. His knowledge of Earth's ships and weapons, though limited in comparison to Elendra's, gave him a unique perspective. He found weaknesses the enemy did not expect. At one point, a massive enemy cruiser approached, its size dwarfing any human ship Kale had seen. Its energy cannons glowed, ready to unleash destruction. Kale's hands flew over the control console. "Divert all power to the forward shields. Use the secondary weapons to slow it down." Lyra watched in awe. Even though she had seen visions of her long-lost brother, she had not imagined him leading a defense like this. The courage, the instinct, the calm determination, Kale was more than just a commander. He was a force. As the cruiser fired, Elendra's shields held, though the impact shook the palace. The floor vibrated beneath their feet. Kale clenched his jaw and countered with precise strikes, exploiting gaps in the cruiser's armor. The explosions lit up space like fireworks, and the enemy ship was forced to retreat, limping back into the dark expanse. "Impressive," Eldrin said softly, appearing behind them. "You are more than we imagined. The palace has been waiting for this day, waiting for you." Kale nodded, though his thoughts were still on the people of Elendra. "I didn't come here to impress anyone," he said. "I came to protect them, to protect you." Lyra's gaze softened. She could see the truth in his eyes. He was not a stranger. He was someone who carried the blood of her people and the courage of a human warrior. The connection between them was undeniable, and the weight of shared destiny pressed upon them both. As night fell over Elendra, the battle continued. Kale did not sleep. He moved between the command chamber and the observation deck, monitoring the enemy's movements. His mind worked tirelessly, predicting attacks, planning counterattacks, and making decisions that could decide the fate of the kingdom. During a brief lull, Kale walked through the palace gardens, Lyra by his side. The gardens were suspended high above the city, with glowing plants and trees that pulsed gently with Elendran energy. The scent of alien flowers filled the air, calming in contrast to the chaos outside. "Kale," Lyra said, breaking the silence, "how did you survive all those years on Earth knowing nothing of this place?" Kale shrugged. "I didn't think about it much. I had my life, my crew, my duties, but there was always a part of me that felt different, out of place, and now I understand why." Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "You were meant to return, and now that you are here, everything changes." Their conversation was interrupted by an alarm. The enemy fleet had launched a coordinated strike, targeting the palace's outer defenses. Kale's instincts kicked in. "Back to the command chamber," he said, taking her hand. "We have work to do." The next wave was more intense than the first. Dozens of enemy ships approached, firing with deadly accuracy. Kale directed the palace defenses, using the energy from Elendra's floating towers to reinforce shields. He coordinated attacks with precision, each command measured and effective. Amid the chaos, Kale realized something crucial. The enemy was not just attacking randomly, they were searching for something. His mind raced. Could it be him? The thought chilled him. The name he had just begun to accept as his own might be the reason Elendra was under attack. "Lyra," he said, urgency in his voice. "They're after me, or at least they know who I am. We have to protect the core. We can't let them breach it." Lyra's eyes widened, but she did not falter. "Then we fight. Together." The battle raged on, lasers cutting through the nebula clouds, ships exploding in brilliant flares, and the palace itself shaking under the energy of concentrated fire. Kale led Elendra's forces with unmatched strategy, blending human adaptability with Elendran technology. He predicted enemy movements before they happened, turning what seemed like chaos into a carefully orchestrated defense. Hours felt like minutes. Exhaustion tugged at Kale's body, but he refused to stop. He could feel the eyes of the princess, the people, and the entire kingdom upon him. He could not fail. Not now. Finally, as the first light of Elendra's twin suns crested the horizon, the enemy fleet began to retreat. They had lost too many ships, their formation broken, their strategy failing. Elendra had survived the night. Kale leaned against the console, breathing heavily. He felt the weight of exhaustion, but also a sense of triumph. The palace was safe for now. The people were safe. Lyra approached, her expression a mixture of relief and awe. "Kale, you did it," she whispered. He shook his head, smiling faintly. "We did it, you and me, together." Eldrin appeared behind them, a rare smile on his face. "The truth has revealed itself tonight," he said. "The lost prince has returned, and the kingdom is alive because of him." Kale looked out at the stars, feeling the connection to Elendra more strongly than ever. He still had questions about his past, about why he had been sent away, and what his role in the kingdom truly was. But for now, he knew one thing: he had found his place, and he would not let anything take it away. Lyra took his hand, squeezing it gently. "Tomorrow we face the rest, but tonight we have survived, and that is enough." Kale nodded. "Yes, tonight we have survived. But I will not rest until Elendra is safe, and until I understand everything I need to. This is only the beginning." And as the palace slowly quieted, the stars above Elendra shining like watchful eyes, Kale felt the first true sense of belonging he had ever known. He was no longer just a human from Earth. He was something greater. A protector, a leader, and perhaps a brother the princess had been waiting for all her life. The battle over Elendra had paused, but the threat was far from gone. Kale stood at the observation deck, watching the distant remnants of the enemy fleet retreat into the nebula. His mind was still racing, piecing together every tactic, every move the enemy had made. They had been organized, almost too precise, and their retreat was calculated. They would return stronger and more determined. Lyra joined him, her silver robes catching the early sunlight. "Do you know who they are?" she asked softly. Kale shook his head. "Not yet, but whoever they are, they know my connection to this kingdom. That makes me important to them." Lyra's eyes softened, but a shadow of worry remained. "You're not just important to them, you're important to all of us. I can feel it, Kale. Your presence changes things, even the way the people fight." He looked at her, and for a moment the weight of leadership faded. Her words reminded him of something he had long forgotten: the comfort of trust, the strength of being understood. "I don't know if I deserve this," he admitted quietly. "I've spent my life thinking I was just ordinary, but here it feels like everything I was meant to be is finally needed." Lyra reached for his hand, her touch steadying him. "You deserve it. You are more than ordinary. You are the brother I never knew I had, and the protector we all needed. Kale, together we can face anything." Before Kale could respond, Eldrin entered, carrying a data pad glowing with intelligence reports. "Kale, Princess Lyra, you need to see this," he said urgently. "The enemy fleet is not random. They are organized by someone who knows the secrets of Elendra, someone who knows the royal bloodline. Their movements are precise, almost like they are waiting for something or someone." Kale took the pad, scanning the data. His brow furrowed as he recognized the pattern. The enemy commander was calculating, using Elendra's past knowledge against them. "They know too much about our defenses," Kale said, voice low but firm. "This isn't just an attack fleet. It's a strike team, and I think they're here for me." Lyra's eyes widened. "For you?" "Yes," Kale said, "because I am connected to this family and because they want to control Elendra through that connection. We need to prepare for them, and we need to understand who is leading them." Eldrin nodded gravely. "You are correct. The palace has long feared the return of one former general who resented the royal family's alliance with humans. He was exiled years ago, but it seems he has returned, seeking revenge." Kale felt a chill run down his spine. A human general, or an Elendran one who had knowledge of human technology. Either way, they were facing a mind as dangerous as their fleet. "Then we confront him before he reaches the palace core," Kale said. "I need to take the fight to him." Lyra looked uneasy but resolute. "We cannot allow them to harm anyone here, but you are risking yourself." Kale smiled faintly, the first time in hours. "I've spent my life fighting for others. Why would this be different?" The palace command prepared for another attack. Kale oversaw every detail: the placement of the fighters, the allocation of energy to shields, and the use of the palace's hidden weapons. His orders blended human improvisation with Elendran precision, creating a defense that was unpredictable and deadly. As the enemy approached, Kale felt a strange sense of clarity. His mind, trained for years in human warfare, adapted seamlessly to Elendra's technology. Every move felt natural, every decision instinctive. He was no longer just a human commander. He was a fusion of two worlds, a bridge between Earth and Elendra, a force neither enemy nor ally could ignore. The enemy fleet struck with force. This time, Kale had anticipated their moves. Fighters launched in coordinated strikes, interceptors weaving between energy blasts and returning fire. Elendra's towers emitted waves of energy that disrupted the enemy's targeting systems, while Kale's tactical maneuvers forced their ships into narrow paths where they could be trapped. Amid the battle, Kale noticed a single ship separating from the main fleet. It was larger, darker, and moved with intent. He recognized the signature immediately. "There," he said, pointing. "That is the command ship. That is where the enemy leader is." Lyra's voice was calm but firm. "Then we must stop it, but how? It's heavily shielded." Kale's mind worked quickly. "We lure it into the nebula, use the gas clouds to interfere with their shields and targeting, then we strike together." The plan unfolded like clockwork. Elendran fighters acted as bait, drawing the command ship toward the nebula. Kale piloted a small assault vessel himself, weaving through the chaotic battlefield, staying just ahead of the enemy's fire. The command ship followed, drawn by the lure of his presence. Lyra coordinated from the palace, sending energy pulses and commands to the defenders. Together, they created a perfect storm, an attack that was both precise and unpredictable. The command ship, confident in its pursuit, was forced into the gas clouds of the nebula. Its shields flickered and weakened, its weapons misfiring as the dense particles interfered with their systems. Kale seized the opportunity. "Now!" he shouted. Fighters from the palace surged forward, concentrating fire on the weakened command ship. Explosions lit the nebula, and the massive vessel shuddered under the assault. Finally, with a last, desperate blast, the command ship was destroyed, drifting in the nebula as a burning wreck. The remaining enemy fleet retreated, leaving Elendra in relative peace, for now. Kale exhaled, his body trembling with exhaustion and adrenaline. He had faced countless battles in human space, but this had been different. This had been personal. This had been about a kingdom, a princess, and a destiny he was only beginning to understand. Lyra approached, her expression a mix of relief and admiration. "Kale, you were incredible," she whispered. "You saved us all." Kale shook his head, smiling faintly. "No, we saved each other. You guided me, trusted me, and gave me the strength to fight. I couldn't have done this alone." They walked through the palace gardens, where the alien plants glowed softly in the aftermath of the battle. Elendra's people were emerging from their shelters, cautious but grateful. Soldiers and civilians alike looked to the palace, whispering Kale's name with awe and gratitude. Lyra stopped beside a crystal fountain, the water reflecting the twin suns of Elendra. "Kale, there is something you need to know," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "The truth about your past, it is more complicated than even Eldrin knows." Kale's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" She took a deep breath. "When you were sent to Earth, it was not just to protect you. You were part of a plan, one that involved human technology and Elendran strategy. You were trained in ways that would prepare you for this moment. Your visions, your dreams, they were not accidents. They were part of a connection that linked you to this kingdom." Kale felt a strange mix of awe and confusion. "So everything I felt, everything I remembered, it was real?" "Yes," Lyra said softly, "and it is not over. There are secrets within the royal archives, secrets about the alliance between humans and Elendranians, about why you were truly sent away and why you were brought back now." Kale nodded slowly. "Then we need to find them. I need to understand everything, not just for me, but for Elendra." Lyra's hand found his again. "We will do it together. I will be with you every step of the way." As night fell over Elendra, Kale stood on the observation deck once more. The nebula stretched endlessly before him, the stars glittering like distant fires. He felt a sense of connection stronger than ever, a bond to the kingdom, to its people, and to the princess who had waited for him all her life. He realized that the battle was not just about ships or weapons. It was about courage, trust, and the will to rise above impossible odds. Humans had survived countless wars through ingenuity and determination. Elendranians had survived through strength and knowledge. And now, united, they could face anything. Kale thought of the enemy commander, the fleet that had threatened Elendra. They had been defeated, but he knew they would return if given the chance. That was the way of the universe, always testing, always challenging. But Kale felt ready. For the first time, he truly understood his purpose. He looked at Lyra standing beside him, her eyes reflecting hope and determination. "We have survived the night," he said quietly. "Tomorrow we face whatever comes next, together." Lyra nodded, a small smile breaking through her calm exterior. "Together," she echoed. And in that moment, Kale felt the weight of destiny shift from uncertainty to clarity. He was no longer just a man from Earth. He was the returned Prince of Elendra, a warrior of two worlds, and the protector the kingdom had been waiting for. Above, the stars continued to shine, silent witnesses to the courage, the choices, and the bond that had begun to define the future of Elendra. Kale knew that the path ahead would be difficult, filled with challenges and revelations, but for the first time, he did not fear it. He would face it as he always had, with determination, with hope, and with the princess by his side. The sun had just begun to rise over Elendra, bathing the palace in golden light. After the long night of battle, the kingdom was quiet, but the tension in the air remained. Kale Aaron stood on the observation deck, staring at the distant horizon where the enemy fleet had disappeared. Even though the immediate danger had passed, Kale knew the true challenge was still ahead. The enemy commander, the one who had led the strike against Elendra, had not been fully revealed. Kale felt it in his bones. This confrontation would decide the fate of the kingdom. Lyra joined him silently, her eyes calm but filled with determination. "Are you ready for what comes next?" she asked. Kale turned to her and nodded. "I have to be. I know now that this is not just about defending the palace. It is about uncovering the truth of my past and protecting the people who believed in me before I even knew who I was." They made their way to the royal archives, a massive chamber of crystal walls and floating holograms. Eldrin was already there, waiting with several data pads hovering in the air around him. "Kale, Princess Lyra," he said gravely, "it is time to reveal what has long been hidden. The records of your early years, Kale, and the true reason you were sent to Earth, they are here." Kale stepped forward, a mixture of anticipation and anxiety in his chest. For the first time, he would know the full story. He placed his hand on one of the glowing data pads, and images, names, and dates began to stream before him. "You were not only sent to Earth for safety," Eldrin explained. "You were sent to be trained." The royal family knew that one day, the kingdom would face threats that no Elendrin alone could repel. Human ingenuity combined with Elendrin technology was the key. You were to be the bridge between our worlds. Kale's mind raced. The visions, the dreams he had experienced all his life, the sense of not belonging, they were not mistakes, they were preparation. "And the princess," he said slowly, glancing at Lyra. She has known this all along?" Lyra nodded. "I saw glimpses of you even as a child. I could not understand it, but I knew you were important. When you arrived, I felt that connection immediately. That is why I called your name in the hall. It was instinct." Kale swallowed, the pieces falling into place. He was not just a stranger who had returned. He was the heir, the protector, and the hope of Elendra. And yet there was more to discover. Eldrin's expression darkened. "There is one more thing. The enemy commander who led the fleet against us, he is a former general of Elendra. His name is Vader, and he has a long-standing grudge against the royal family for their alliance with humans. He has studied your life, Kale, and knows that you are the heir returned. He seeks to control Elendra through you or destroy everything you hold dear." Kale clenched his fists. "Then we end this. We cannot allow him to hurt anyone else." Lyra's hand found his, steadying him. "We face him together," she said, the palace prepared for the final confrontation. Elendra's fleet, smaller but loyal, positioned itself strategically around the palace orbit. Kale took command, his mind combining human tactics and Elendran strategy in perfect harmony. He coordinated interceptors, defense grids, and energy pulses with precision. Every move was calculated, every decision deliberate. As the enemy fleet reappeared on the horizon, Kale and Lyra stood together on the observation deck. The lead ship, massive and black, moved with deadly intent. From it a holographic figure appeared, a tall, armored Elendran male with piercing eyes. "Vader, the enemy commander." "You have grown," Vader said, his voice cold. "The lost prince returns, but do not think your presence changes anything. Elendra will fall, and you will either serve me or die." Kale's jaw tightened. "You are wrong. Elendra does not belong to the greedy or the vengeful. It belongs to the people, and I will protect it." Vader's ship unleashed a barrage of energy fire. Kale immediately gave orders to the defense grid, coordinating with the palace towers to redirect the attack. Fighters launched from the palace, weaving through the enemy fire, while Kale's tactical maneuvers forced Vader's fleet into disadvantageous positions. The battle was fierce. Energy beams streaked across space, explosions lit the nebula clouds, and debris floated between ships. Kale piloted a small assault vessel, diving through the chaos, targeting weak points in Vader's command ship. Lyra guided him from the palace, using her intuitive connection to predict the enemy's moves. "You can't let him escape," she said. "He is dangerous. He will return if we do not stop him now." Kale nodded. "I know. I'll make sure he cannot threaten anyone again." Using a combination of Elendran energy pulses and human maneuvering, Kale forced Vader's ship toward a nebula cluster, much like he had done before. The dense gas clouds disrupted the enemy shields, and Kale's fighters struck with coordinated precision. Vader's ship shuddered under the attack, but the general was skilled and resourceful. He adapted quickly, changing tactics to compensate for the nebula's interference. Kale felt the weight of the moment. This was no longer just a battle of ships. It was a battle of minds, strategy, and willpower. He pushed himself further, his instincts guiding him through impossible maneuvers. Lyra's guidance, calm and steady, gave him clarity. Together, they created a strategy neither Vader nor his fleet could anticipate. Finally, Kale saw the opening he needed. Vader's ship had overextended, exposing its core. Kale signaled the palace fleet. "All units, focus fire on the core, now!" A massive beam of concentrated energy struck the enemy ship, cutting through its shields and hull. Vader's command ship exploded in a brilliant flash, scattering debris across the nebula. The remaining enemy fleet, leaderless and demoralized, retreated in disarray. Kale exhaled, exhaustion and relief washing over him. The palace was safe, Elendra's people were safe, and Vader's threat had been eliminated. But there was still the matter of the truths he had uncovered and the bond he had formed with Lyra. Back in the palace, the people gathered in the grand hall. Cheers and applause filled the chamber as soldiers, citizens, and courtiers recognized the heroism of the returned prince. Kale stood with Lyra, feeling the weight of his journey, the long path from a child sent to Earth to the protector of Elendra. Lyra turned to him, her eyes filled with tears, but this time of joy. "Kale, the kingdom is safe. You did this. You came back for us and you saved everything." Kale shook his head. "I did not do it alone. You guided me, trusted me, and gave me strength. We did this together." Eldrin stepped forward, his eyes twinkling with pride. "The records were right. The lost prince has returned, but more than that, he has proven himself worthy. Elendra's future is secure because of him." Kale looked around the hall at the faces of the people he had come to protect. For the first time in his life, he felt truly at home. He was no longer just a human from Earth. He was a prince, a warrior, and a symbol of hope. Lyra placed her hand on his shoulder. "Kale, there is one final truth. You were sent to Earth not just for safety, but so you could learn what it means to be human, to understand compassion, courage, and resilience. Those qualities, they made you who you are today. That is why you could lead us and protect Elendra." Kale nodded, feeling a deep sense of understanding. His years on Earth, the life he had known as a human, had not been separate from this moment. They had prepared him. He had grown in ways the royal family could not have predicted, and now he was ready to embrace his full destiny. The palace erupted in celebration, but Kale knew the work was not done. Elendra would rebuild, and he would stand beside Lyra to guide the kingdom. There would be challenges, but with the lessons of the past and the bond they shared, he felt capable of facing anything. As the suns of Elendra set, casting golden light across the crystal towers, Kale and Lyra stood together on the observation deck. The stars sparkled above, silent witnesses to their triumph, their bond, and the future they would face side by side. Kale took a deep breath, feeling the weight of destiny, courage, and hope in equal measure. "We have survived, Lyra," he said quietly. "And now we will protect this kingdom together." Lyra smiled, her hand finding his. "Together," she echoed, and for the first time, Kale felt the full measure of his place in the universe. He was not just a survivor, not just a human, not just a prince. He was the returned heir of Elendra, a protector of two worlds, and a symbol that courage, hope, and unity could overcome any challenge. The galaxy outside continued its endless dance of stars and planets, but within the walls of the palace, peace had been restored. And Kale knew, deep in his heart, that as long as he and Lyra stood together, Elendra would never fall again.